if you're a coach, if you're a consultant, if you're in finance, if you're in insurance, accounting, you're a lawyer, you're providing some sort of high valued service, LinkedIn is your cash cow when it's used the right way. And that's why your content has to be different on LinkedIn. It can't be the same old, drunkalog verbal vomit that people share on Instagram. And, there's no dancing or pointing and doing all that stupid shit that people do on TikTok and Instagram. Like, I'm sorry, that's not what it's for.
So be appropriate for the platform.
LinkedIn, again, you have one chance at a great first business invitation to get to know you, right? That impression that you leave on people lasts forever. So how do you want to be seen? How do you want to be remembered on the platform? And that's the one thing that I always think about. Every time I'm creating and crafting a post, I'm making sure that it's in alignment with my core beliefs. It's leaving my audience better, but it's going to bring them back for more every time that they see it.
Hello, and welcome back once again to the Inquisitor podcast with me, Marcus Cauchi. Today, my guest is Scott Aaron. Scott and I are going to be talking about authenticity in marketing and sales. And without any further ado, I'd like to introduce him. And Scott, could you just give us 60 to 90 seconds on who you are, who you serve, and what it is that you do for your customers that actually helps them move the needle in the right direction?
Yeah, my name is Scott Aaron, co-founder of The Time to Grow. I specifically, and my wife and I, we work with coaches, consultants, and service professionals of those that are looking to grow and scale what they're doing. We do this through the means of LinkedIn, but other core processes that we have put in place to grow and scale our three businesses. And we always like to do it from that human-centric approach and really making sure that people are enjoying what they do, serving people the way that they want to be served, and not doing it in a very slimy, spammy, or scammy marketing strategy that a lot of people are deploying right now. And my big belief is always live in a world of collaboration and connection over a world of competition and comparison. And that is what we truly believe.
Excellent. Have to agree with you 100%. So this may be a slightly dull episode if we don't find some points of contention. So let's start out with an awkward question. AI. It's obviously having a massive impact. It seems to have taken over LinkedIn quite dramatically. So what I'm seeing is people scaling idiocy at volume. Let's start with a little bit of poignant advice to people who are looking at AI and seeing it as a way of making their life faster and more efficient instead of more effective and efficacious.
Well, the one thing that my wife and I, we actually run a paid community / membership for coaches, consultants, and service professionals that leverages a combination of personalized GPTs, which are basically just prompt questions that asks the inputter specific things. And these are correlated around LinkedIn content, because that is the one thing that people struggle the most with. They end up getting very lazy and just repurposing stuff from other platforms, thinking it's appropriate for LinkedIn when it's not. Other people just don't know what to do from the aspect of creating content for LinkedIn. So they either don't create it at all, or when they do, it's garbage. So Nancy and I really saw this gap, and we took my content creation strategy that I've been implementing for the last 13 years, plus my wife's knowledge of AI. And now, with the help of AI and the human that's inputting the answers to the questions, it is creating high engaging content on LinkedIn. And that is a prime example of the proper way to be using AI. AI is a tool. It's not meant to replace you. And Marcus, to your point, yes, people, just like with the advent of the internet, with the advent of social media, now the advent of AI, you will have people that abuse its power and do things the wrong way. But those people will get left behind at some point, or they will be pushed to the wayside to make room for the people that are using it the right way. And I believe that AI, and I think this is the one thing that I want everyone to understand, is that we are in the infancy stage of AI. What is possible right now, this is literally, we're in pre-K right now. We're not even in kindergarten. Like we are literally just in daycare. So if people are either A, amazed by what AI is capable of doing, or B, they despise what AI can do, well, the people that are excited are going to get more excited, and the people that are despised are going to be even more despised. So I just am a big believer in not getting left behind in business. So for me, if there is something going on, as a business owner, as someone that teaches how to grow and scale a business, online marketing, social media, I would actually be doing my business, the business that Nancy and I run together, the clients that we serve, a disservice by not knowing what is going on in business and not understanding the hottest trends and things that people are doing. And right now, it's AI. But the way that we teach it, again, is from a human-centric approach, using AI as a tool, just like you would an email service provider or a CRM. These things aren't meant to replace us in business. They are put into place to help us elevate our business. And AI is just one of the newest tools.
Well, you mentioned something that I think is worth digging into really deeply, which is that how you message, communicate, and market yourself on LinkedIn has a particular flavor, uh, framework, and requirements. Do you mind sharing what, at a high level, that looks like? And then we can maybe contrast that with some of the other platforms so that people can see the difference.
Well, I would say there's messaging from two different components. So the first component is the direct messages that you send to people within your network. So that could be someone that has newly accepted an invitation from you. That could be someone that you're reaching out to that has recently subscribed to your LinkedIn newsletter. That could be you reaching out to someone that has recently voted in a poll question that you asked, or even responded back to maybe a call to action that you had in a LinkedIn live training like I do twice a week. Now, those messages could vary depending upon the desired outcome. Whenever I'm messaging a new connection, meaning someone that I've sent a connection request to, they've accepted my connection. That I have a little checklist in my mind, and it's called the Warm Touchpoint Checklist. So I'm always looking for warm touch points. And for the listener, the someone that's watching this, that is, what do you mean by warm touch point? You're looking for signals from another person to let you know that they resonate with you or what you do in some way, shape, or form. So you're looking for warm points of action being taken on someone else's behalf. So what does that look like? That looks like someone accepting a connection request that you've sent them. That looks like someone liking or engaging in a piece of your content. That looks like someone subscribing to your newsletter. That looks like someone commenting in a post. That looks like someone voting in a poll question. Those are all warm touch points, which also allow you an invitation to reach out to that person because of the warm touch point that they have taken upon themselves. So
Mhm.
when someone accepts my connection request, I always send a friendly message to them. Now, I don't use automation tools for this because you can't. The user agreement with LinkedIn prohibitly tells you that you are unauthorized to use um, uh, any Chrome extension, any automated process that connects messages and engages for you. You cannot have a VA or someone else sign in to act as you. LinkedIn wants you to be you and to control your profile. So anytime I message someone, it is absolutely by hand. So there's probably a lot of people that may just want to turn off the episode now because the fact of the matter is that if you can't carve out 20 to 30 minutes a day to actively network, engage, and open lines of communication with your network on LinkedIn, it's probably not the right platform for you. But if you're listening to this and other people connecting with them in that respect is part of your business love language. You love networking, you love connecting, you love building relationships, you love creating referral partnerships, business allies, so to speak. Then you're going to want to leverage LinkedIn for the rest of your life. So I'm going to invite anyone that doesn't want to spend 20 to 30 minutes a day to stop listening now because it's just going to be wasting your time. But those that really do resonate with it, I want you to get out a pen and a piece of paper and take as many notes as you can. So, Marcus,
So, what would that warm first message sound like?
so there's two different strategies that you can deploy, and it's really about a comfort level at this point. So I'm from the East Coast. I'm in Jersey, grew up in Philadelphia. And for anyone that doesn't know about quote unquote the East Coast vibe here in the States, we are very direct people. So if we're feeling a certain way, if we want to ask a question, we're going to ask. And whether the answer is yes, no, or nothing at all, it doesn't bother us either way. So for me, I'm a direct asker. So if someone is going to accept my connection request, I want to I want to connect with them offline. I want to learn all about them and their business journey. I want to be able to share what I'm doing and see if there's any common ground for either referrals or potential business to be exchanged, or that person even potentially working with me if what I do fills a void. So as far as the message goes, um, the structure is the same except for the ending. One has a call to action, one doesn't. So I would simply reach out and say, hey Marcus, thanks for accepting my connection. That's the first thing. So a warm opening, not dear Marcus, comma space, indent next paragraph, because that triggers, that just looks like an automated message.
Yeah.
So typing it all in one paragraph humanizes that approach. The second thing is finding a relatable connection point. So I, you know, Marcus has a podcast. I'm going to use that as my connection anchor to let him know, hey, we're alike more than you may think. And I would simply say, I noticed that you have a podcast, and obviously you do podcasting, as do I. Would love to hear about it and what you have new for the show. Share what I'm working on with mine and how we can support each other here on LinkedIn. So what I've done is, one, I've created that bridge of introducing myself to Marcus and letting him know, here's how we're connected. Here's our relatable touch point. And what that does is it lowers the wall of resistance and it raises the level of connection and the likelihood of that person wanting to reach back out. But the other thing is I used one of the most important words in the English language as far as creating connection with someone that you don't know. And that word is support. So there have been business studies done where they've actually seen an increase in oxytocin, which is the feel good chemical that our brain releases when certain people read certain words in regards to business and sales. And support was at the top of that list. So now that person feels good about why you're reaching out because you're not trying to sell them, you're not trying to pitch them, and you're absolutely not baiting and switching them. And the bait and switch is people will message you along those lines. And then as soon as you get on that call or that Zoom, they just start hard selling you. And I just immediately hang up. So be a person of your word. If you're looking to learn about that person, then make sure you learn about them first. Now, as far as how that message ends, this is your option. I always ask a direct question. And I always finish with, do you have any time this week or next week to hop on the Zoom to see, learn more about each other, right? So the last thing that I want that person to see is a question mark, because questions lead to answers, statements lead to nowhere. You have to ASK to GET. You have to ask in order to get. If someone is not comfortable yet directly asking someone to hop on a Zoom or a call, then just leave it open-ended. And you can simply replace that last sentence with, if you ever have the time to connect to see how we can support and learn from each other, don't hesitate to reach out. I would love to connect with you. And that's that. So now you're putting the ball in their court where they may respond back, yeah, that sounds great. When did you have in mind? So it's more of a softer approach.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm all about split testing. So if someone is resonating with both of those, try the call to action, meaning the question, try that for a month of messaging, and then try a month of no question, just a statement, and see which one leads to more calls being booked. And that will tell you, that will be your determinant of whether you should be asking directly or indirectly.
From just what you said right at the end, it also indicates that you need to be patient. I mean, there's nothing stopping you doing a split test and 50-50ing your message one with and one without a call to action. But I think the message that I'm taking from this is that it takes time to develop real relationships. And you've got to sacrifice haste for speed. And the problem is that I think people are hasty in LinkedIn. The number of times people try to connect with me each week and they're trying to get their hand in my pocket.
Right.
And they're not interested in me. They're not interested in what I care about or what I need. They're interested in what they can get from me or they can do to me. And I think in sales generally, we have to take that lesson and recognize that people buy for their reasons, they connect for their reasons, they respond for their reasons when they are ready. And trying to force this is disastrous on LinkedIn. I mean, the number of people that I've just blocked because the first thing they do is pitch slap me.
Yep.
I just find it overwhelming that and frustrating that so many people lack any sort of empathy. So rant over. Let's talk about content. Because again, obviously LinkedIn is a great platform to demonstrate your expertise,
Mhm.
but it's not just to demonstrate expertise. So let's talk about the range of content that works well on LinkedIn.
So We follow obviously everything that works well on LinkedIn. LinkedIn currently has around 18 different algorithms running at the same time. They change every 60 to 90 minutes. So as far as being ahead of the curve, that's pretty much impossible at this point, just because of how much the algorithms are changing. Um, what you can do from, I would say, a 10,000 foot view is really pay attention to what LinkedIn is pushing out, meaning go through your newsfeed and just take a look at some of the content that is getting fairly good engagement, meaning there's people liking, there's people commenting, there's people resharing. And if you look at enough of those pieces of content, you'll start to see two different trends. Number one, it's a lot of thought leadership type of content, meaning content that positions you as an expert in the space that you're in. The other trend that you'll notice along with the thought leadership component is storytelling. Now, why storytelling is so important combined with thought leadership is that now you're hitting people from the two most important components and aspects of content. One, positioning you as a go-to resource to build the know, like, and trust. But the other perspective is also positioning you as someone who is relatable, someone who's been there, someone that can understand the person that's reading this is where maybe you were 5 years ago or where they want to be. And the fact is that when you have that combination of creating content that positions you as the go-to resource and also makes you relatable to the reader, you're going to increase your engagement, you're going to increase your visibility, and you'll actually start this incredible organic inbound messaging strategy. And what I mean by that is you will start to see an uptick in your connections reaching out to you to ask more deeply about what it is that you do. And we had someone in our community. She actually messaged me on LinkedIn actually the other day, and I asked her to please share what she took away, with our group. And she said to me, and this is quote, the week one post from the Expert Content Society performed very well last week. Impressions were up, and I got at least one message from that was qualified. So the fact is that content on LinkedIn is actually acting more as a lead generator than actually just messaging people that are a new connection of yours. And that's why content is so important. It's exactly why we created the community that we did, because people want to A, learn how to better use AI in a very humanized way, but B, they want to make sure that they're showing up on LinkedIn the right way. They want to make sure they're showing up as the expert go-to resource in their space. They want to make sure that they're resonating with their audience through storytelling. And that's exactly what we help people do.
So, given how important story is, what advice would you give to those who suffer from the curse of the expert, who have a tendency to, first of all, be very technical, and then secondly, overload?
Well, I would say you're going to overthink and overcomplicate the process, which is going to lead you to becoming out of business. So it's practice over perfection. And you have to put yourself, and I think this is a wise words to those people that are maybe overcritical of their content. They put too much into it. Here's the thing. You are not creating this content for yourself. You are creating this content for others. And you can't assume that the people that are reading your content know everything that you know. If you're the expert, you need to make sure, and this is something that is tried and true, you need to make sure your content is so easy to digest and understood that a fourth grader would understand it. If you talk too high level, then you are literally going to turn a ton of eyeballs and a ton of visibility away, because there are very simplistic things that you can do in the content that you create that doesn't have to overcomplicate the process. But here's the other thing, Marcus, when people overthink and overanalyze their content creation strategy, they end up getting into analysis paralysis, which means they actually never end up pressing go. They're kind of like in this no man's land of, they're creating their content, but they have to go back and reread it 6 times, and they have to go edit it, and then they want to, they're not ready to put it out there yet. They're going to wait a little bit, and then they end up never doing it. And so for me, I always remind myself and those that we work with, put yourself in the passenger seat, not the driver's seat. So when you're writing your content, write it from the perspective of where you were 5, 6, 7 years ago, where you didn't know quite as much as you do now. And you can't assume that people know what you know. So if anyone reads any of my content on LinkedIn, it is not rocket science. I talk about very simplistic things, but it's the elementary things that allow people to experience that compound effect in their business because you can't skip any of the grades. You have to understand the elementary things before you get to the intermediate things, before you get to the advanced things. So I always talk to people from a very, very elementary level because there are more people than not on LinkedIn that have no clue what they're doing. 99% of the people on LinkedIn never post a thing. 1% of the LinkedIn population posts once or more per week. So what that tells me is that there's millions and millions of people that are starving for just the simple things that they need to do to get started to move that needle forward. Because again, you have to give in order to get. I love giving away free tips, free tangible things because I know that the time that I'm putting into the network that I've created on LinkedIn, I know that I'm building that know, like, and trust. And when that time comes, for those individuals that are in my network that want to up level their LinkedIn game, guess whose door they're going to come knocking on? Mine. Because I've taken the time, I've taken the energy, and I've taken the effort to give them a reason to knock on my door, not run away from it.
Okay, so very helpful. Let's now look at the different types of content. So we've got the short front homepage posts. We've got articles. We have newsletters. There's video. There's the use of carousels and other documents. When do we use them, each of those, and when do we, for what purpose do we use them?
So for me, I always recommend, so I have a beginner strategy and then I have an advanced strategy. So the beginner strategy that I typically deploy with people and I suggest is 3 posts per week, either Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, whatever the person prefers. The advanced strategy is 6 posts per week, and that could be Monday through Saturday. That could be Monday through Friday, skip Saturday, and then do Sunday. It's whatever is good for that person because LinkedIn has its own built-in content scheduler, so you can pre-schedule your content up to 60 days in advance, which I think is wonderful. Now, when you use types of content is completely up to you, but I'll tell you a little bit about my strategy. So the number one performing type of content for me currently right now are my LinkedIn newsletters. Now, I don't suggest writing articles. The only time I suggest writing a LinkedIn article is if you don't have access to LinkedIn newsletters. And the only way that you'd be unable to create a LinkedIn newsletter is if you have under 150 connections. If you have 150 or more connections, you can access the create a newsletter feature. And why that's so impactful is that you can build a subscriber list, much like a YouTube channel. So right now, I'm approaching 11,000 subscribers on my LinkedIn newsletter, which means that is 11,000 people that have chosen to subscribe to my newsletter to read it each and every week. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But people love long form educational content. And the beautiful thing about newsletters is that you can also embed imagery like pictures or videos. If you want to take people to a YouTube channel, you can. But LinkedIn also emails your newsletter editions on your behalf to everyone that is receiving email communication from LinkedIn. So if you include a call to action at the end of your newsletter edition that has a clickable link, like book a call here, check out my website, download my free guide, listen to my podcast, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Now, thousands of people are getting that email from LinkedIn, which can drive external traffic because at the end of the day, social media is rented land. Everything that you do on LinkedIn, you should be looking to and should be saying to yourself, how do I get this person from on the platform to off the platform? Meaning, how do I get them into my email service provider? Every piece of content that I create has that vision in mind. So, to give you a little peek behind the curtain, Mondays and Thursdays, I always do LinkedIn Lives. And they're anywhere between 8 to 15 minutes. They're not terribly long. I just pop on there and I do a little live training on some sort of key component. It could be a LinkedIn feature, a LinkedIn update, tips, whatever the case may be. I have a call to action in every single LinkedIn Live. So this past week, my call to action was type the word me in the comments if you're struggling with your LinkedIn content and you would like 3 free templates of how to create 3 high impact posts.
Nice.
So I did yeah. So it's something of high value to them. It's completely free, but they're having to take a warm action to let me know that they want it. And I had 7 people on that live all type the word me in the comments that they wanted that download. So that was a way for me to convert 7 of my followers or connections now into email list subscribers because now they can be nurtured. So that's why long video is so important because it allows you to build that know, like, and trust over a longer period of time.
Can I ask, do you do those LinkedIn lives to a schedule that's published, a regular routine, or do you just pop up randomly?
So it's a regular routine. They're streamed every Monday and Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern.
Lovely.
So I use a platform called StreamYard.
Mhm.
Um, there's a free version. You can also use Restream or Riverside. I use the paid version of StreamYard because you can actually pre-record through the platform and then schedule your stream to go out in 30 minutes. So sometimes if I'm crunched for time, meaning if I have something going on at 10 o'clock, like a podcast or something, the day before I'll record the training on StreamYard and I'll act as if I'm live, doing the same things I would. And then I record it, and then I just schedule it to go out at 10 o'clock the next morning. So it still goes out as a live. It just allows me to go back and kind of check out the metrics later.
Okay, and when to use images and not use images?
So in the LinkedIn newsletters, I typically use images for me if I'm going over like a feature. So the newsletter edition that I have coming out this coming week at the time that we're recording this is about three advanced features of LinkedIn newsletters. And those three features are A, you can use a custom URL for that specific edition that you can share on social. B, an SEO title for Google, so it's more searchable outside of LinkedIn. And C, an SEO description for Google, so again, it can be populated more in the general search engines. So I actually did a LinkedIn Live on this, and then I actually rewrote it into a long form newsletter. But what I did was I took screenshots of those specific sections and basically dropped them into the newsletter in those key areas of where I'm talking about it to give a visual of what is being written. So if you're describing a certain something, if you're showing a certain something, that's when you would use some sort of video or audio visual representation of what that means.
Excellent. Okay, and what about carousels and PDFs and those sorts of attachments?
Yeah, carousel posts are PDF documents on LinkedIn. They can be uploaded via the mobile app or desktop now. It used to be only desktop only. The best way to do it is actually going on to canva.com and searching for the Instagram carousel template. So an Instagram carousel post that has maybe 5 or 6 slides is compatible with LinkedIn carousel documents. And what you would do is you would go on there, you would change it, and it's a quick hit type of post in the sense of you're giving just like little tips here and there. The key to this is making sure that you save it as a PDF standard and not a JPEG or PNG file. So if you upload it as a PNG file, it'll come up as separate images. When you download it as a PDF standard and upload it to LinkedIn as a document, it's going to come up in a carousel post where people can thumb through on the mobile app or click through, each slide, so to speak, on the desktop. For me, I do them twice a month. So I rotate a quote tile and a carousel post every other week. So,
Ah, right, okay.
and I do them on Saturdays. So my posting schedule is I do a LinkedIn Live on Monday. I do an image text post on Tuesday. I do a market research poll question on Wednesday. I do my other LinkedIn Live on Thursday. And Friday is my LinkedIn newsletter, which is basically my week recap. So I always recap everything that I talked about that week, Monday through Thursday, in my long form newsletter edition. And then Saturday, as I mentioned, I will rotate a quote tile one week, slide document or carousel post the next, and vice versa. So I use them every other week. The other ones that I do are weekly. And again, that's what I do. People don't have to obviously abide by it, but it definitely works for me.
So one final question around LinkedIn and the algorithm. What I've noticed is when I post my newsletter and I get the stats back, it typically doesn't go to more than 10% of them. What's going on there, and what does one have to do in order to get the entire newsletter subscriber base to get it?
It's kind of difficult to say because to give you an example, I have around 11,000 subscribers, and I correlate the analytics of almost like an email open rate to people that read your newsletter. So out of every like I would say, but for mine, it's I get about 3 to 4 thousand views of my newsletter. So we're talking about between 30 to 40%.
Mhm.
Um, so 60 to 70% are still not seeing it. So there's a couple different reasons why. Number one, people subscribe to many, many newsletters on LinkedIn. So they're getting many notifications each day. People only have so much time to dedicate to reading that information. The other thing is a lot of people do end up turning the email notification messages off from LinkedIn. So for me personally, out of the nearly 11,000 subscribers, only 5,000 are actually getting emailed by LinkedIn about the newsletter. So there's 6,000 that are not.
Right.
And the only way that they would see it is A, if they saw it maybe pop through on their newsfeed, or B, they end up going into the notification section, the little notification bell, and they click on it and they see that I've actually dropped a new newsletter edition. So the other thing that I do to make sure that it stays visible is Fridays after 7:30, which is my newsletters go out Fridays at 7:30 in the morning on LinkedIn. I do send an email broadcast out later in the morning to my email list, letting them know about the new newsletter edition that I just dropped, and I'll give them a little snippet. So I'll take the first paragraph of the newsletter and then give them kind of like a teaser. And I'll say, if you want to read the rest of it, click the link below. And it's that custom URL that I created when I did that specific edition. And people may say, well, why are you, emailing your subscribers, but also doing the newsletter on LinkedIn? Well, the fact of the matter is, not every one of my LinkedIn newsletter subscribers is on my email list and vice versa. So I always try to cross pollinate. In the same accord, you may have people that are subscribers of your newsletter and on your email list, but guess what? They may not get the notification on LinkedIn, so they haven't read it, or they
Mhm.
may not have opened the email. So now you're going to make sure that more eyeballs are getting seen by your stuff.
Excellent. Okay, so let's explore what the difference is between LinkedIn content and the other social media platforms, and how to avoid falling into the trap of TikToking or Instagramming on LinkedIn.
Well, I would say a lot of the other platforms, and this is just personal opinion only. Facebook is the barbecue of social media, meaning that's where people go to kind of hang out, um, share a cocktail, catch up. It's a lot of people that you know. It's Facebook is for people to connect with it or in your personal sphere. And if you look at the highest performing content on Facebook, what do you notice? Well, it's birthdays, it's anniversaries, it's weddings, it's engagements, it's deaths, it's unfortunately sometimes medical diagnoses,
Mhm.
right? It's a lot of personal life that people are sharing. That's what Facebook wants to push out. Instagram is a reality TV show. It is completely scripted, it is produced, and it is not real. And I think people have really caught on that as far as all the platforms, the one that is most driven by bots and fake accounts is Instagram. Um, I am on Instagram, but I'm using it more for personal purposes now. I do competitive bench pressing, so I kind of share a lot of my personal journey from that. Um, I Instagram seems to be a waste of time for me, and a lot of people for that matter. Everyone thinks they're an expert on there. Everyone says, "Oh, everything happens in the DMs." I delete every message because they're not real. TikTok, I actually don't have. I actually used it for a little bit, but got disenchanted with it very, very quickly just because as a dad, you kind of look at things through the lens of, trying to protect your kids, so to speak.
Mhm.
And it was just too, I would say, unrestrictive. It was just kind of like a free for all. I know there's a lot of people that are quote unquote killing it on TikTok or whatnot, but I always come back to this. If your ICP, your ideal client, is a business professional, they're most likely going to do a monetary exchange of your service, right, for their need and desire on LinkedIn. It is not going to happen on Instagram. It's not going to happen on Facebook. It's not going to happen on TikTok. You have to think about the core reason of why someone is on LinkedIn. They're on there to network, they're on there to connect, they're on there to learn about business strategy and help. 82% of the LinkedIn accounts that are active right now are people in a decision making role, which means 12% are providing the service for the decision maker. So if you're a coach, if you're a consultant, if you're in finance, if you're in insurance, accounting, you're a lawyer, you're providing some sort of high valued service, LinkedIn is your cash cow when it's used the right way. And that's why your content has to be different on LinkedIn. It can't be the same old, drunkalog verbal vomit that people share on Instagram. And, there's no dancing or pointing and doing all that stupid shit that people do on TikTok and Instagram. Like, I'm sorry, that's not what it's for.
So be appropriate for the platform.
LinkedIn, yeah, again, you have one chance at a great first business um, invitation to get
Impression.
to know you, right? That 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 impression that you leave on people lasts forever. So how do you want to be seen? How do you want to be remembered on the platform? And that's the one thing that I always think about. Every time I'm creating and crafting a post, I'm making sure that it's in alignment with my core beliefs. It's leaving my audience better, but it's going to bring them back for more every time that they see it.
Okay. So reposting your own stuff and reposting other people's. Let's talk about that.
So when you repost your own stuff, the only time I recommend doing that is if you have a company page attached to your personal profile, which is very easy to set up. There's a little waffle on the top right on LinkedIn that says for business. And on the right hand column, all the way down at the bottom, it says create a company page. And literally, right now, we have multiple company pages: the Time to Grow, Scott Aaron Consulting. And all you have to do is just fill out the information. Your company name, company size, website, whatever, your logo, and it's on there. So what we typically do is if there's something that we post, either, myself, my wife, that really resonates with what our company is about, then after it's posted from our personal, we can hit the reshare button. And then you always want to choose the option of reshare with your own thoughts, not reshare instantly. When you hit reshare with your own thoughts, you can then actually type some content above the post, which you can just share your own thoughts, but make sure that you change it from your personal profile to your company page. So there's a little arrow next to your name. You just click it, it'll drop down your company pages. You select the one that you want to share it to, you hit OK, and then you hit post. When you do the same thing, it's more or less along the lines of if there's a post that you come across that you really resonate with that someone else has posted, you do the same thing. You reshare with your own thoughts, because what that does is you take that person's words and you actually add your own point of view and perspective on top of it, which still shines a light on your expertise. But it also really scratches the back of that other person, which again could bring them into your sphere and vice versa. It could give you more visibility, but it's also a nice little trust building exercise. So if there is someone that you do wish to connect with or network with or collaborate with, maybe reshare a piece of their content once a month. Let them know that you appreciate them, and obviously do that by resharing it with your own thoughts.
Okay. So let's get to the meaty bit before we wrap up, which is the profile. Many people's profiles contain next to nothing about them. It's basically a resume or a CV. Um, what would you advise people to do in terms of the about section, and also how to use the experience section to tell your story?
So the about section, I always recommend 5 core things. Number one, make sure that it's 300 to 500 words in length. That is kind of optimal for the about section. Number two, make sure that it's written in first person. So I. You don't want someone else telling your story. You do. And what that 300 to 500 words in length should comprise of, and this is the third tip, is share a little bit of who you are as a person, what you do from a business perspective, who you serve specifically from a client perspective, and how you serve them. Do you do coaching? Do you do consulting? Do you have group coaching? Really let people know, here's a little bit about me. Here's how I got into what I'm doing. Here's who I serve, and here's how I serve them. Right? So it's going to really let the person know if this person is or is not a good fit for you. The fourth thing that you should do is list 15 to 20 skills that you have within business. And you literally type the word skills, colon, and then you start listing them, like dash marketing, dash podcasting, dash social media, dash networking. Because again, those are all SEO keywords that go into allowing your profile to populate more. So listing those 15 to 20 skills. And the fifth and final thing is have a very clear call to action at the end. So I recommend two. Email me here, and then have your business email, not your personal, check out my website here. Now, the website, it's not clickable. They would have to copy and paste it, but it's still giving a visual aid of that next step if someone wants to take it. So that's the best way to go about the about or summary section. As far as the experience section, number one, you want to have at least 3 experiences listed to kind of show your business timeline, the top one being what you're most focused on right now. And within each experience, make sure that you have a 2 to 4 sentence description for each of those. You know, what that experience represents, who you serve, and how you serve them. Almost like a mini about section for each one. But I would say the most impactful thing that you can do for the experience section is the title of each experience. Now, what do I mean by title? So when you create an experience on LinkedIn, it'll say title, and most people will put marketing specialist, or they'll say, gym teacher. You'll literally list whatever that title is. That is fine. But after you have your title, you want to have at least 3 hard skills after that. So let me give you an example. The top experience on my profile right now is the Time to Grow. That is the name. It says co-founder of the Time to Grow. That's the company that my wife and I run together. I then have one of those totem poles, the straight up and down lines.
Yep.
And then after that, I have 3 specific hard skills: marketing, branding, sales, so on and so on. And each of those gets its own separate. So you would do totem pole, marketing, totem pole, sales, totem pole, branding, whatever it is. Those specific keywords show up in the search engine because you want to have the keywords fluttered all throughout your LinkedIn profile that your ideal client would be searching for. So if my ideal client is searching, lead gen or LinkedIn tips or client acquisition or sales, I have those keywords fluttered all throughout my LinkedIn profile, my headline, my about section, my experience section. And the fact is that will allow me to populate more, have more visibility to it, and it's going to position me as that go-to person, as I stated before.
Excellent. Scott, this has been incredibly informative. Thank you. In wrapping up, first of all, how can people get hold of you?
LinkedIn is a great place to do that. So I am most prevalent on LinkedIn. If you just search Scott Aaron Coach on LinkedIn, you'll see my profile populate. You can just Google me. You can find my website, my podcast, all my other socials. If someone wants to get in direct contact with me, you can email me at scott@scottaaron.net. But again, LinkedIn is probably the easiest way to find me.
And if you had a golden ticket and you could go back to the idiot Scott, age 23, and whisper in his ear, what bit of advice would you give him that he would have probably ignored, but would have been incredibly useful, either in life or in business?
It's a great question. I got into entrepreneurship at 19. I was kind of thrusted into an adult role as a teenager. So I don't feel like I skipped over that idiot stage. I just feel like I had to grow up really fast. So I've never had the opportunity to work for anyone else but myself. But I would say the one thing that I probably would have done differently, but wouldn't have wanted to change the outcome because it got me to where I am right now. I can't rewind time because I wouldn't be sitting here with you. The one thing that I probably would have tried to do better at an earlier age is speaking my truth and not just agreeing with people to agree with them. Like if it's something that I didn't agree with, or I wanted to share thoughts or my personal feelings on something, having the uncomfortable conversation. And when I was younger, I was not comfortable with doing that. Now I have no qualms about telling people exactly how I feel, and it's not meant to hurt their feelings. But at the same time, if I'm not speaking my truth, I'm actually doing that person a disservice. So that's the one thing I would change.
So it all comes back down to authenticity, as we started at the beginning.
100%.
Excellent. Scott Aaron, thank you. This has been incredibly instructive.
Thank you, Marcus. Appreciate the opportunity.
So this is Marcus Kauke signing off once again from the Inquisitor podcast. If you found this useful and insightful, which I'm sure you will, go back, listen again, take more notes, and act on the advice that Scott has given you. He's very good at what he does, and the advice and tips will actually help you to have a better presence on LinkedIn and get in touch with him. Don't waste the opportunity. He's gifted you his details. Make sure you exploit that opportunity. So without any further ado, happy selling and stay safe. Bye-bye.